Hey, welcome back everyone. On a recent trip to Tokyo, Japan, I had the opportunity to visit one of the few gun shops in the city called Chicago Regimentals, located around Ueno, Tokyo. They specifically specialize in deactivated firearms from every historical era, from matchlocks all the way to the modern era. It was a pretty obscure place with not much advertising on the outside that it was a gun shop, besides, a name sign with Gene Hackman depicted as a legionnaire from the movie March or Die. Unfortunately, I can't show you more than a few photographs because they had a very strict no filming, no picture policy, but you can find lots of photos online. But just to kind of give you guys a picture, you walk in and it has 3 flights of stairs, each with its own showroom decorated with Victorian and 20th century era militaria. And the first floor you walk in and there are racks and walls of Carcanos, Enfields, old Mausers, obviously deactivated machine guns, Remington rolling blocks, muskets, a few Japanese Arisakas. Can't go to Japan without a few Arisakas. And surprisingly, even a Lee Navy rifle. Like I said, they were all deactivated, unfortunately, meaning the receiver had a hole drilled into it. I looked at even the muskets, they had holes drilled in them. The bore was plugged from the top and what I assumed was the bottom, and the bolt was welded completely shut with what I imagine are extremely strict Japanese deactivation rules. There were a couple workers at the counter and talked to one of the guys about Japanese firearms laws and asked what kind of clients came into the shop. Since everything in the shop was deactivated, there were no legal restrictions, at least according to him, on bringing deactivated weapons home right away, which probably makes it easier for clients as well as for the flow of inventory. Although he mentioned that foot traffic in the shop wasn't huge to begin with. He described the firearms as more artistic wall hangers since you couldn't even operate the bolts, and there's no way you could even study the actions of the individual rifles. As a collector, and as most of you are collectors, this is too bad because there were some really nice pieces in there that are basically ruined as historical objects. But he did mention one of their big clients are TV and movie productions that need prop weapons, which makes perfectly good sense. This kind of reminds me of that Ian McCullum video on Forgotten Weapons where he talks about the various deactivation laws, the differences between museums, and whether weapons should be deactivated or not, and how that sort of collects the future ability to study those weapons as mechanical devices. After checking out the first showroom, I went up to the third floor, which had a massive showroom of PPSHs, some M1 carbines, an early production Lee Enfield with the magazine cutoff still attached, a bunch of, again, deactivated machine guns, some MP-28s, but again, unfortunately, they were all just sort of wall hangers. Beautiful pieces, of course. I spoke to their current president, Alex, and he mentioned that he had served in the French Foreign Legion before joining the company. I think his father owned it before, which kind of explains the Gene Hackman March or Die sign in front of the store. He says they don't get a ton of street business because people don't have as much disposable income in Japan as they might in the US, and people would rather buy other things since military is not a big collector's market over there. They obviously get enough business to stay operational, but it sounds like they don't get too many random people coming in to buy deactivated weapons. For example, one of the PPSHs was 187,000 yen, which is about 1,200 US dollars. All said, a deactivated PPSH or an MP-28 to get that, fully automatic in the United States is going to be tens of thousands of dollars. So actually, if you just want this as a wall piece, that's probably not an unreasonable price. So obviously, it sounded like the people who shop there are people with a military interest, but being Japan, you can't really shoot these guns anywhere, so they're just interesting wall hangers or, again, prop pieces. The walls were also full of accessories like ammo pouches, pistol holders, rifle manuals, deactivated ammunition, helmets, firearms, reference books, amongst other things, but he was saying most of these I could probably find in the United States for much cheaper and more readily available, which is absolutely true. It wasn't much of a sales pitch, of course, but he was certainly right. And I think maybe he didn't want an American buying stuff and taking them out of the Japanese market, which is totally plausible and fair. So naturally, I wanted to pick up one of the rifles, and he kindly obliged when I asked him. And he had me put on these white gloves. One of the rifles I picked up was an early production #1 Mark III Enfield with the magazine cutoff still included, but you literally couldn't operate any of the moving parts of the rifle because it was all welded shut, like I mentioned earlier. They even had several nice examples of a Mauser Banner rifle, but you could even see like the torch marks on the receiver. Fortunately, because they had to deactivate any of the moving parts, I assume also the firing pins were removed. So they were basically just solid chunks of metal. So if you guys ever get a chance to go to Tokyo, definitely go check this place out. You may not be able to buy anything, but they've got some cool inventory and some awesome showrooms for sure. They had a ton of machine guns. Like I said, they had some really cool German and Soviet machine guns. You can also check out their website for additional information about the history of the company, find more photos, and search their inventory. And it looks like they also have a location in Osaka too, but the one in Ueno, Tokyo is their main headquarters. And if you get a chance to see Alex, the president, I believe the owner, feel free to talk to him. So anyway, that was my trip to Chicago Regimentals in Tokyo, Japan. See you guys later.